Hello, everyone. Welcome. And today we're going to be talking about nutrients and foods to help lower inflammation and heal injuries. And so this is a great topic because so many athletes are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. And when I was speaking with our athletic trainer, our head athletic trainer here at Daytona State College, he was telling me, and he firmly believes this, that 90% of the injuries that he treats in the athletic training room could be prevented if athletes would pay better attention to their fueling and their hydration. So let's go ahead and get started. So first we have to learn what is exercise-induced inflammation. Okay, and basically it's just how the body reacts to damage caused by hard exercise. And so most of you are probably familiar with signs of inflammation. These are things like redness, swelling, pain. And then we have two kinds of inflammation, and it's important to distinguish between these two. We have what's called acute, that means readily onset. And this is the normal way for your body to respond to injury. It's basically what we would say is your body's defense. And then we have what's called chronic inflammation. Another way to describe chronic is using the word prolonged. So this is spread out over a long period of time. It's basically day-to-day living, where acute is something that has like rapid onset and goes away fairly quickly. Prolonged or chronic inflammation, again, is that day-to-day feeling of soreness and muscle damage, decreased energy levels. And as a result, for athletes who are trying to train and condition and meet their goals, they might not be getting there. They're going to have decreases in muscle growth and repair, limited gains in response to conditioning and training. All right, so food, okay, and hydration and rest, all of these things play a big role in healing bones. And so we know that athletes get fractures, all right, and for healing joints. And so that's really important. For a long time, that's probably one of the key requests I got from athletes and active people. What can I do for like my sore knees? Okay. And then very important for healing ligaments and tendons. So when you think about sprains, when you think about torn ACLs, yeah, nutrition might be able to play a role. Okay. All right, so let's just first, as we get introduced to this topic, talk about eating enough calories and then the macronutrients. So one of the things that we really want to stress to athletes is that you need calories to be able to heal, right? And you need calories to replace those calories that you burn doing your rehab. So yes, when you're in rehab, you're working hard, you are burning extra calories to do that. And your body also requires extra calories to heal. Many times, though, athletes are afraid of unwanted weight gain and they underfuel. And as a result, they're not going to get the healing progress that they want. So we have to find a balance. Obviously, we don't want athletes to gain a lot of weight, but we want athletes to be able to have enough energy to heal and to also be able to do the rehab. And then it's very important when we think about the types of fats that we're eating, right? So we want to avoid inflammatory fats. And as we learned earlier, that's the trans fats, saturated fats, and the omega-6s. So one way for athletes to help with this in terms of getting a balance of calories, we always target get rid of the empty calories, the sugary drinks, the high sugar foods, the fried fast foods. Okay, so we're going to look at protein specifically, carbs specifically, and fat specifically. So yeah, it's true. Your protein needs do increase when you have an injury and you're trying to heal. One of the things that we do as a sports dietitian is we calculate how many grams of protein an athlete would need when they're in a situation where they're going through rehab for an injury or recovering from a surgery. So the higher protein needs are based on a range, okay, and it's individualized to each athlete, but it'd be about 1.6 to 2.5 grams of protein for every kilogram they weigh. So remember, you got to take your weight in pounds, divide by 2.2 to get it into kilograms. All right. We talked a lot about leucine in the chapter on protein. And so one of the neat things about this section is that we get to go back and revisit important nutrition concepts that we learned earlier. And so we know that leucine is unique in that it signals muscle protein synthesis. And so we want athletes to have optimal healing. So we want athletes to eat protein at every meal that's high in leucine, so that's spread throughout the day. And then at snacks, and especially making sure that they have a full serving. And a full serving would be characterized as or defined as a minimum of 20 grams of protein at each meal and snack. And so just a couple of tips to kind of fine tune. We want to consider quickly digested proteins throughout the day, but especially 30 minutes after rehab. So we know that whey powder is one, but a lot of people don't like whey powder. And we also know that food works too. So lean meats. So you could do like a turkey sandwich after rehab, and that would work great, okay, with a glass of milk, or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a glass of milk, right? And then slower digested proteins at bedtime, right? Because throughout the night is when your muscles repair and rebuild themselves. So again, it makes sense to have the amino acids, the building blocks of muscle protein there in your blood to be able to be supplied directly to the muscle throughout the night. So a slower digested protein, one that's going to deliver amino acids, kind of trickle into the bloodstream through the night while you sleep. So good examples would be cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, and then if you wanted, you could also try casein powder. All right, so that's all of what we need to know about protein for healing. So let's talk a little bit about carbohydrates. So again, we know that athletes need to find a balance with their calorie intake. They need to eat enough food to be able to fuel their rehab and their healing. Okay, but we don't want to overeat either. So a lot of times athletes will try and go on something like a keto diet where they're just getting protein and a lot of fat in order to try and maintain their weight. But as we learned so much throughout the semester, this isn't always the ideal choice. Okay, most of the time it's not. We need carbs in this situation because carbohydrates are burned for fuel to spare protein for healing of body tissues. All right. Now, because typically we're trying to maintain a balance of calories, we have a little lower recommended carbohydrate intake for most athletes as opposed to when they were burning tons of calories when they were training. So the recommendation is about 3 to 5 grams of carbs for every kilogram they weigh. And again, that whole focus on nutrient-dense carbs, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. And then the last macro we're going to talk about, still important to include in the diet, athletes that are in rehab and recovering from injuries need fats for lowering inflammation. And so the type of fat we're focusing on are foods high in omega-3s. Okay, so that ends it for this section. We're going to talk about specific micronutrients in the next one.